Hey guys, tonight we're diving deep into the very heart of business, a topic that, no matter how much you know about the industry, you'll want to come back to time and again. You probably won't survive this unscathed, especially if you've spent any time around the quick fix and get rich fast crowd. Building a business that stands the test of time without compromising your values isn't something that happens overnight. It requires commitment, patience, and a firm foundation. But more importantly, it takes knowing exactly where you stand on the issues that matter most to you and your customers. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Feel free to share where you're tuning in from and what time it is where you are. It's always fun to see where the audience is located. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. Building a business without compromising your values starts with a clear sense of who you are and what you stand for. Picture this. You've got the opportunity to make your first real business decision. It's a big one. The money's on the table. The promise of instant success feels just within reach. All you have to do is take that shortcut, the one everyone says is necessary to make it. But wait a second, how does that shortcut align with your values? What's the cost to your integrity? The one thing you have complete control over. Starting with a strong foundation isn't just about writing a business plan. It's about creating a blueprint for your character. Your business, your reputation, and your ethical compass must be set in stone before you even think about profit margins and market share. This is where many businesses stumble. They build their house on sand, thinking they'll adjust the foundation as they go. But once you've set a course without considering your values, everything else becomes a struggle. You see, building on values is like investing in real estate. If your property is built on solid land, the risks are manageable and the returns sustainable. But a business without solid values is like a skyscraper built on quicksand. The moment external pressures or temptation shows up, your foundation will buckle. Let's look at the impact of not establishing values up front. Take the notorious case of Enron, one of the most famous corporate collapses in modern history. It wasn't just poor accounting that sunk them. It was the utter abandonment of ethical business practices. Enron's executives prioritized short-term profits over long-term sustainability, and the company crumbled in spectacular fashion, bringing down employees, investors, and their entire community along with it. Historians still argue whether Enron's downfall was a case of pure greed or a gradual corruption of corporate culture. But the common thread is clear. Had they built the company on values that prioritized integrity and transparency, their story would have been completely different. Think about your own business, big or small. What are the values that guide you? Maybe it's honesty, fairness, customer-first thinking, or social responsibility. Whatever they are, you need to be crystal clear from day one, because this clarity will guide you through moments of doubt, temptation, and opportunity. It will help you make decisions that don't just look good on paper, but feel right when you put your head on the pillow at night. As you start building, don't get distracted by what others are doing. The pressure to conform to industry norms or take shortcuts can be overwhelming. But remember, success built on shaky values will be short-lived. It might be a little slower, a little less flashy. But true success comes when you stay grounded in the principles that made you start in the first place. Think back to the story of Patagonia, a brand that stuck to its values of environmental sustainability. Even at the cost of potentially higher profits, Patagonia's founders made the conscious decision to build their business around ethical values, helping to preserve the environment, promoting fair labor practices, and remaining transparent. They didn't opt for the quick cash grab. Instead, they focused on building a business that stood the test of time. And that choice paid off in ways no one could have predicted. This is what we're talking about here. It's about laying a foundation that's strong enough to weather the storms and flexible enough to grow over time. When you start with values, you're already ahead of the game. You won't have to fight temptation or regret later. So, let's wrap this up with a question for you. When you think about your business, are you clear about your values? Or are they still a distant thought you'll get to someday when it's convenient? Don't wait for that moment. Build them into the DNA of your business from day one. You've probably heard it a million times. People love to tell you that the key to business success is moving fast. And sure, There's something to be said about seizing opportunities when they present themselves. But let's pause for a second and ask the hard question. What does fast really mean in business? What if it's a trap? You see, in the race to wealth, speed often ends up becoming the biggest obstacle to success. You start chasing the quick dollar, the easy deal, and the path that promises instant returns. It all seems like smooth sailing at first. But that's where the danger lies, just like a perfect wave, right before it crashes. The problem with going after fast success is simple. It's rarely built to last. Think about the rise of the dot-com bubble in the late 90s. The internet was new. It was exciting. And there was an almost frantic rush to cash in. Venture capitalists threw money at companies with no clear path to profitability. All in the name of disruption. Everyone was caught up in the momentum, chasing the promise of quick riches. But when the bubble inevitably burst, thousands of companies were left stranded. It wasn't innovation that led to the crash, it was the hype surrounding fast profits, all with little thought about sustainability or the long-term viability of those companies. Historians still argue whether the dot-com bust was just a natural market correction or a result of fundamental flaws in how people approached entrepreneurship. What's undeniable is that many of those overnight successes crumbled because they were built on the unstable foundation of a quick, unsustainable rise. You might be thinking, but Warren, what about those businesses that really do blow up quickly? Don't they prove that fast success is possible? Well, yes and no. Let's talk about Facebook for a second. Facebook didn't just become successful overnight because of a gimmick or a fad. It was built with the idea that it would provide something real and lasting, an interconnected platform for people to share and connect. It wasn't a quick fix, but a product of hard work, innovation, and the willingness to adapt and grow over time. Facebook's success didn't come from just chasing a profit, but from creating something people needed, even if they didn't know they needed it yet. Mark Zuckerberg and his team didn't rush to monetize the platform from the get-go. They focused on user experience and on building something that people truly valued. Fast success can be a byproduct of that focus, but that focus came from a deeper, longer-term vision. So, why does the allure of quick success become such a problem for entrepreneurs? It's because it distorts our view of what's truly important. When you're chasing that fast return, you're focused more on what the world sees today instead of what it will look like tomorrow, 5 years from now, or even 10. The risk of rushing is that you skip the steps that build a strong business. Research, testing, refining, and adapting. What happens when you cut corners? You end up cutting your own future short. And it doesn't just apply to large companies. Small businesses fall into the same trap. Imagine you've just started a boutique, and your sales are soaring because of a popular trend. Great, right? But what happens when the trend dies out? You're left scrambling for the next hot thing without the solid foundation to weather the changing tides. Here's the thing. You can still make a good living and build a solid business without rushing into every opportunity that comes your way. You don't need to jump at every trend. In fact, building a business with integrity often means resisting the temptation to chase the next big thing just because it's popular. Slow and steady doesn't just win the race. It builds a business that lasts. And you know what? There's something incredibly powerful about saying no to the fast path and sticking to what aligns with your values. You're not bound by the pressure of keeping up with the crowd. Instead, you're creating something sustainable, something that holds up when the market shifts. You're playing the long game, and it's a much stronger position to be in. Take a look at Warren Buffett's own approach. His strategy with Berkshire Hathaway has always been about value investing, choosing businesses with solid fundamentals and holding on to them for the long term, while others were jumping in and out of stocks, chasing short-term gains. Buffett was focused on buying great companies and staying the course. It's not glamorous, but it's incredibly effective, and that's exactly the point. Success doesn't need to be flashy. It needs to be solid. The takeaway here is simple. Avoid the trap of quick success. Building a business without compromising your values means focusing on what matters for the long haul. It's about investing in what works, not what's trendy. So, next time you're tempted by a shortcut or a fast deal, ask yourself, is this really sustainable, or am I just chasing the quick fix? All right, now that we've tackled the temptation of quick success, let's get into something that's absolutely critical for the longevity of your business: trust If you want to build something that lasts, you need to understand that trust is the glue that holds everything together. It's the foundation on which every decision, every partnership, and every customer interaction is based. So, let's dive into why trust is a long game and how it can be your best asset when you're playing the business game without compromising your values. Imagine this. You've built something solid, your product is top-notch, your marketing is on point, and your business is growing. But if people don't trust you, they're not going to stick around. Trust isn't something you can just buy or fake. It's earned, and it's built over time. It's not the flashy promise of the next big thing or a clever sales pitch. Trust is about delivering on your word, consistently, even when no one's watching. Think about how Amazon grew to dominate the e-commerce world. At first, it wasn't about selling everything under the sun. Jeff Bezos built Amazon around one key principle: customer trust. His focus was on creating a customer experience that people would return to time and again. It wasn't about cheap tricks, marketing gimmicks, or trying to trick people into a sale. Amazon earned trust by delivering what they promised and by always trying to make the customer experience better. That's a big part of why it has remained so successful even as it expanded and diversified. Trust, once earned, keeps customers coming back. And that's the thing. Trust isn't a one-time deal. It's a constant effort. Every time you interact with a customer, a supplier, or a business partner, you're either building or eroding that trust. Imagine you've made a mistake. Maybe you sent out the wrong product, or there was an issue with a service you provided. That's when trust is really put to the test. Do you own up to it, apologize, and work to fix it? Or do you sweep it under the rug and hope no one notices? Here's where many businesses fail. They're too afraid to admit mistakes, thinking that being vulnerable will hurt their reputation. But the truth is, customers appreciate honesty. When you make an error and own it, you're showing that you care more about doing the right thing than about protecting your ego. When you take responsibility, you turn a negative situation into a positive experience. Trust grows when you show you're human and that you stand by your values, even when things go wrong. But trust doesn't only come from your actions, it comes from your consistency. People trust you when they know what to expect. And I'm not just talking about delivering on time or sticking to your product promises. I'm talking about consistency in your behavior, in your values, and in the way you show up for others. If you're constantly changing your message or wavering on your principles, people will notice, and not in a good way. This idea of consistency doesn't just apply to interactions with customers. It applies to your employees and partners too. If you want to build a strong, loyal team, you need to create an environment where trust is the foundation of your culture. That means being transparent with your team, treating them with respect, and showing that you value their input. If you show up every day with integrity, your team will follow your lead. Trust is contagious. Let's take a step back for a moment and talk about a quirky tidbit: the idea of social proof. You know those customer reviews that businesses live and die by? Well, the concept behind them goes back centuries. In ancient times, word of mouth was the most powerful form of advertising. People trusted the opinions of those they knew. Fast forward to today, and customer reviews and social media endorsements have become the digital version of that old-school trust-building method. If you've built a reputation for honesty, quality, and consistency, people will start vouching for you. That social proof is what helps propel your business forward. But here's something historians still argue about. Can you build trust too fast? It seems counterintuitive, right? Trust is supposed to take time. But if you're offering something of value from the get-go, and your customers consistently see that you're reliable and true to your word, trust can snowball. However, the real challenge comes in maintaining that trust once you've earned it. Fast-track trust can be fragile, and you need to nurture it constantly or risk losing it just as quickly. The key takeaway here is that building trust is about showing up consistently, owning your mistakes, and living up to your values. It's not about making promises you can't keep or pretending to be something you're not. And trust isn't just for your customers, it's for your employees, your partners, and anyone who's part of your business ecosystem. Now, let me ask you this. Can you think of a moment in your own business when trust made all the difference? Maybe it was the first time a client returned to you because they felt valued. Or maybe it was the time your team went above and beyond because they trusted you as their leader. Trust is the glue, the foundation, and the fuel that propels businesses forward. And if you make it your priority, you'll see how it pays off in ways you can't even predict. Word count: 1, 0 to 1. Awaiting continue. Section 4. Let's take a quick detour into the world of innovation. Now, don't roll your eyes just yet. I know, everyone claims they're all about innovation these days, right? But here's the thing, real innovation is about creating something that resonates with people, not just jumping on the latest trend because it looks like a quick way to make a buck. And if you're going to innovate in a way that aligns with your values, you have to be willing to walk your own path and avoid imitating what's already been done. Picture this. You're standing in the middle of a bustling marketplace, your mind racing with ideas. Everywhere you look, there's something new, whether it's the latest tech gadget or a disruptive business model. It's easy to get caught up in the frenzy and start thinking that you need to be part of the crowd. But if you're going to build a business without compromising your values, you have to ask yourself, are you creating something that's truly your own? Or are you simply copying what's worked for someone else? Innovation isn't about jumping on bandwagons. It's about understanding the needs of your customers and creating solutions that are meaningful and authentic. Take Apple, for instance. Sure, they were late to the game in terms of personal computers. But instead of copying what was already out there, they focused on creating something different, a product that was sleek, user-friendly, and beautifully designed. They weren't just selling a computer, they were selling an experience, an idea that people could rally behind. That's what made Apple so successful. They created a whole new way of thinking about technology, and that innovation came from a place of understanding what people truly wanted, not what was trendy at the moment. Now, let's talk about a quirky fact. The term innovator's dilemma was coined by Clayton Christensen in his groundbreaking book of the same name. Christensen's theory suggests that companies that are doing well can fail precisely because they don't innovate, at least not in the way they should. Companies often focus on improving what they already do, missing the opportunity to introduce entirely new, disruptive ideas that could capture the market. It's the classic case of being too focused on the present to see the future. Historians still argue whether Christensen's theory applies universally or if it's more relevant to certain industries. But the key takeaway is this. Innovation doesn't just mean improving what's already there. It means being bold enough to create something entirely new, even if it challenges the status quo. And that's where the real risk and the real reward lies. But this doesn't mean you should go out and create something just for the sake of being different. True innovation requires understanding your market, your customers, and your own values. If your innovation doesn't align with your values, you're simply creating something for the sake of profit. And that's where the compromise starts. This is why walking your own path is so crucial. Think back to some of the most famous disruptors in business history: Tesla, Amazon, and even Netflix. These weren't companies that copied their competition. They found their own lane and stayed there. Sure, they faced resistance at first, but they stayed true to their vision and ended up reshaping entire industries. But that kind of innovation doesn't come easily. You'll need to dig deep into your understanding of your customers and what they truly need. It's easy to follow the crowd, especially when the crowd is heading in a particular direction. But if you're going to build a business without compromising your values, you need to be comfortable with carving out your own path, even if it means stepping away from the obvious, the popular, or the easy path. It's not just about staying true to your vision, it's about knowing when to be bold. Being a true innovator means sometimes looking at the market and saying, "No, this isn't the way forward. I've got a better idea." It's that willingness to think differently, to not be afraid of pushing boundaries, and to not get comfortable with the status quo. And here's the hard truth. It's not always going to be easy. Innovation often means failing first, but that's part of the journey. In fact, some of the world's most successful entrepreneurs have failed multiple times before hitting it big. Take Thomas Edison. For example, he famously failed thousands of times before inventing the light bulb. But instead of seeing each failure as a setback, he viewed them as steps in the process of innovation. That's the mindset you need to embrace, viewing failure as part of the evolution of your business, not a sign to quit. You have to take risks, yes, but you also have to do it in a way that aligns with your values. Don't compromise on what you believe in just because something looks good on paper. True innovation comes from staying authentic to yourself and your mission. So, when it feels like the world is telling you to follow the herd, remember, the greatest businesses aren't built by playing it safe or copying others. They're built by creating something truly unique that stands the test of time. So, what does innovation look like for you? Are you ready to take that leap and carve out your own path? Or are you tempted to follow the crowd? Take a step back, evaluate your values, and ask yourself whether your next move is driven by what's popular or by what you truly believe in. The answers you find will shape the future of your business. Now that we've talked about innovation and walking your own path, let's dive into something just as crucial to building a business without compromising your values. Transparency. The idea of transparency in business is simple on paper, but it's a game changer when you put it into practice. Being transparent isn't just about showing your customers where your products come from or how they're made. It's about creating an open culture where honesty and accountability are baked into every interaction, from the top down. Think about it. Transparency builds trust, and trust is what you need if you want to build lasting relationships with customers, employees, and partners. Without transparency, you're left in the dark, operating on assumptions and half-truths. When you embrace transparency, however, you're giving people a reason to believe in you. It's about sharing your values and making sure that your actions align with them. Take a look at Patagonia. Again, this is a company that's been synonymous with transparency. They've gone to great lengths to share the story behind their products, from how they're sourced to how they're made. They don't just tell customers they care about the environment, they show it. Whether it's through their commitment to fair labor practices or their efforts to reduce carbon emissions, Patagonia's business model is rooted in transparency. And it's this transparency that has built an incredible level of loyalty among customers. People know they're not just buying a jacket or a pair of boots, they're buying into a brand that stands for something bigger than just profits. But here's the thing, transparency isn't always easy. It's much simpler to hide the mistakes, gloss over the details, and pretend everything is going according to plan. But when you take the easy route, you're doing yourself, your team, and your customers a disservice. The truth has a way of coming out, and when it does, it can damage your reputation beyond repair. A company that covers up its mistakes, misleads its customers, or makes promises it can't keep will lose credibility faster than you can say scandal. A quirky little tidbit here. Did you know that some companies go so far as to include information about their mistakes in their marketing? Take Buffer, a social media management tool, for example. A while back, they had a security breach that exposed users' private data. Instead of hiding it or spinning the narrative, they wrote a blog post about the breach, explaining what happened, how they were handling it, and what they were doing to ensure it didn't happen again. It wasn't the easiest thing for them to do, but it was one of the most transparent things they could have done. And guess what? It actually strengthened their relationship with users because they appreciated the honesty. Historians still debate whether businesses that admit their mistakes actually gain more trust than they lose. Some argue that transparency in the face of failure can bolster a company's image and turn a negative into a positive. Others believe that once trust is broken, it's nearly impossible to rebuild. But one thing's for sure. Being transparent about your values, your mistakes, and your process gives you a solid foundation for success. Transparency isn't just about owning up to mistakes. It's also about being clear with your customers and employees about what you stand for. If your mission is to provide high-quality, ethically sourced products, then you better be ready to back that up in everything you do. And if something goes wrong, whether it's a delayed shipment, a customer complaint, or a manufacturing flaw, be upfront about it. Don't let customers feel like they've been left in the dark. Share the facts, offer solutions, and demonstrate that you care about getting it right. You've probably heard the expression, actions speak louder than words. Well, when it comes to transparency, that couldn't be more true. It's not enough to simply talk about your values. You have to show them in everything you do, from the way you treat your employees to the way you handle customer service. If your actions don't match up with your words, you'll lose credibility faster than you can say oversight. And let's not forget about the power of transparency within your own company culture. When employees know they can trust you to be open and honest, they'll be more likely to trust you with their ideas, their concerns, and their best work. Creating a transparent workplace means encouraging open dialogue, making sure your team feels heard, and offering them a clear vision of where the company is headed. When employees feel informed and involved, they're more likely to be engaged and motivated. But let's face it, running a business with full transparency is tough. You'll have to make some hard calls along the way. There will be moments when keeping things hidden or sugarcoating the truth might seem like the easier option. But if you're serious about building a business that lasts, you can't afford to compromise on transparency. It may be uncomfortable, and it may take more effort than the shortcut, but it will pay off in the long run. Transparency is one of those values that people can feel. When you're clear, open, and honest, you make it easier for others to trust you. And trust is the foundation of any successful business. So, next time you're faced with a decision that involves a bit of tough truth, remember, the path of transparency may be harder, but it's also the one that leads to long-term success. All right, let's talk about something that's tough to face, but crucial for building a business with integrity. Tough choices. As much as you might want to avoid conflict or dodge difficult decisions, the truth is, you'll be faced with them constantly. Whether it's a business partner pulling you in a direction you're not comfortable with, a tempting offer to cut corners for a quick win, or a moment when your principles are put to the test, these tough choices are inevitable. The trick is, when faced with a decision, you have to ask yourself, will this align with my values in the long run, or will I compromise? Let's look at an example from the corporate world. The story of Starbucks and their ethical sourcing practices. A few years back, Starbucks was in a position where they could have easily turned a blind eye to the realities of how coffee is sourced. Coffee is one of the most traded commodities in the world, and yet, much of it comes from regions where farmers aren't paid fairly, and working conditions are often poor. Starbucks, however, chose to invest in programs that supported fair trade and better conditions for coffee farmers. Was this decision easy? No. Did it cost them a little extra? Absolutely. But by standing firm in their commitment to ethical sourcing, they not only upheld their values, but they also built a loyal customer base that appreciated the company's commitment to doing the right thing, even if it meant spending more money up front. The challenge, of course, is that making tough choices doesn't always come with a guaranteed reward. Sometimes, sticking to your values means losing a customer, losing a deal, or losing out on a short-term opportunity. And let's be honest, that's hard to swallow. You've got bills to pay, employees to take care of, and pressures to meet targets. So, when you're faced with a decision that goes against your values, the temptation to take the easy way out can be overwhelming. But here's the thing. Every time you compromise your values, you weaken the foundation of your business. You might make it through this tough time, but the next decision will be even harder, and the trust you've built will begin to erode. Take a moment to think about this. You've been offered a big deal with a client, but they want you to overlook a few red flags, perhaps some questionable business practices, or cutting a few ethical corners to close the deal. It's easy to think, if I don't take this, someone else will. Or this could be the deal that puts me on the map. But here's the reality. That quick win will cost you in the long run. The damage to your reputation, the fallout from compromised values, and the sense of guilt will weigh you down far longer than the short-term gains. Let's talk about a quirky fact. There's a term for this kind of situation. It's called the slippery slope. It's the idea that once you make a small compromise, it becomes easier and easier to make bigger compromises down the road. It's like a little snowball rolling down a hill, picking up momentum until it's an avalanche. Once you start making those little decisions that go against your values, you're setting yourself up for a future filled with more difficult choices that will be harder to turn away from. Historians still argue whether the rise of big corporations in the late 20th century was a result of the slippery slope effect, where businesses started out with good intentions but slowly compromised their values for profit. Whether it was environmental concerns, labor rights, or ethical marketing practices, many of these companies found themselves in murky waters because they made a few small decisions that conflicted with their core values. Those initial compromises snowballed, and what was once a small deviation turned into an all-out disaster for their brand. When you're building your business, don't let the slippery slope become your reality. Make your decisions based on your values from the start, and when faced with a tough choice, Remember that choosing integrity might feel like the harder path at first, but it will always pay off in the long run. You'll need to build a decision-making framework that aligns with your values, something that guides you when you're unsure of what to do. This could be as simple as writing down your core principles and reviewing them whenever you're facing a difficult decision. It's about having a filter to run every opportunity and challenge through. One that asks, does this align with what I stand for? If it doesn't, walk away. If it does, move forward. Let's take a look at another example. The infamous case of Volkswagen and their emissions scandal. They decided to cheat on emissions tests to meet regulatory requirements and maintain their market position. The decision was a short-term win, but it came with devastating long-term consequences. Not only did they face billions in fines, but they also destroyed their reputation and betrayed their loyal customers. This is what happens when businesses compromise their values. They end up digging a hole so deep that it's hard to climb out of. Volkswagen didn't just lose money, they lost trust. And in the end, trust is much more valuable than any quick profit. So, when you're faced with a tough decision, take a deep breath, remember why you started and what you stand for. Don't let the pressures of the moment dictate your actions. It's better to pass on a short-term deal than to sell out your integrity for a fleeting advantage. Stay firm in your values, and you'll not only protect your business, but you'll also set it up for long-term success. By now, we've covered the importance of values: trust, innovation, transparency, and tough choices. But none of these would be worth much if you didn't have the right team behind you. The people you surround yourself with will make or break your business. So let's talk about something that's non-negotiable in building a business with integrity: hiring the right people and cultivating a culture of mutual respect, trust, and, above all, shared values. It's easy to think that all you need are a bunch of talented people who can execute the vision. But talent alone isn't enough. You need people who align with your mission, who share your passion, and who understand that they're part of something bigger than just a paycheck. In other words, you need a team that's as committed to the business's values as you are. When it comes to hiring, don't fall into the trap of thinking that skills are all that matter. Sure, skills are important, but attitude and integrity are just as critical. Hiring someone who is brilliant but doesn't align with your values can cause more problems than it's worth. Think of it this way: would you rather hire someone who can run a spreadsheet in their sleep but doesn't care about the customer experience? Or someone who might not be the best at Excel but genuinely believes in delivering the best possible product to customers? For me, it's an easy choice. People who care about the bigger picture will always be more valuable than those who are just good at their job. Take Zappos. For example, the company became famous for its customer service, and a big reason for that was their focus on hiring people who fit their values. They didn't just look at resumes, they looked at personality and cultural fit. They wanted employees who believed in going above and beyond for customers, not just people who could push buttons and answer calls. And guess what? Zappos built a customer service empire because their team believed in delivering exceptional service. But here's the thing: hiring the right people isn't enough on its own. You have to create an environment where they can thrive. If you want your team to live out the same values that you do, you need to give them the tools, support, and trust to do so. Leadership isn't just about giving orders. It's about empowering your team to make decisions, take risks, and lead with integrity. It's funny when people talk about leadership. They often focus on charisma, strategy, and the ability to sell ideas. But leadership isn't just about inspiring people with a great speech. It's about earning their trust. It's about creating an environment where they feel valued, where their ideas are heard, and where they understand that they're working towards something meaningful. It's about giving them the freedom to do their jobs with the confidence that they won't be punished for making decisions that align with the company's values. And let's talk about that for a moment. Freedom? Too many business owners fall into the trap of micromanaging their teams, thinking that if they don't have their fingers in every pie, everything will fall apart. But the truth is, if you hire the right people and give them the freedom to operate within a values-driven framework, they'll surprise you. They'll make decisions you didn't anticipate. They'll solve problems before they even reach you. And they'll work harder because they know they're contributing to something bigger than themselves. One of the quirkiest examples of empowering a team comes from the online food delivery service. Domino's, Back in the early 2000s, Domino's CEO David Brandon made a bold decision. He empowered employees to speak directly with customers. If there was a problem with an order, the person who took the call had the authority to fix it without checking with anyone else. At first, this seemed risky, but the results were outstanding. Employees felt trusted, customers got a faster resolution, and Domino's became known for its exceptional customer service. The lesson: trusting your team to make decisions based on your core values pays off. Historians still debate the most effective leadership styles. Some argue that an authoritarian style is necessary in times of crisis, while others contend that empowering employees fosters creativity and loyalty. But one thing is clear: a good leader knows how to build a team that shares the company's vision and values. It's not about controlling every move. It's about fostering an environment where everyone is aligned with the bigger picture. But here's the tough part. Building that kind of team takes time. It's not something that happens overnight. You need to be patient, not just with your team, but with yourself as a leader. And sometimes you'll have to make tough calls. Sometimes you'll have to let go of people who aren't aligned with your values. It's never easy, but it's necessary for the long-term success of your business. Let me ask you this: how often do you consider the values of your team when making hiring decisions? Are you willing to choose someone who might not be the best fit on paper, but aligns with the bigger mission? Because when you build a team around shared values, you build something that lasts. The goal here is to create a culture where your team feels like they're part of a family, where everyone is in it for the long haul, not just the paycheck. When your team understands that the business is about more than just profit, they'll go the extra mile for you and for your customers. And that's when the magic happens. We've talked about trust, transparency, innovation, and building the right team. Now let's take a step back and think bigger. Your business needs to be built not just for today, but for tomorrow. So, how do you make sure your business stands the test of time? The answer, my friend, is long-term thinking. It's easy to get caught up in the daily grind chasing deadlines, meeting quotas, solving immediate problems, but the businesses that last are the ones that invest in the future. They plan for what's next, even when things are going well in the present. Let's face it, it's tempting to focus only on the short term. The pressure to meet immediate goals, hit numbers for this quarter, or launch a new product can be overwhelming. But here's a fact you should keep in mind. Businesses that focus solely on short-term gains often end up sabotaging their future. The quick fixes may work for a while, but they don't build a sustainable foundation. When the market shifts or the competition catches up, those businesses find themselves scrambling, unprepared for what's ahead. Think about the classic example of Kodak. Once a leader in the photography industry, Kodak was slow to adapt to digital technology, even though they had the resources to lead the charge. Instead of focusing on long-term innovation, they stuck to their traditional model, clinging to their film-based business. As digital photography took over, Kodak's short-term focus on the current model led to their downfall. They didn't see the future, and by the time they did, it was too late. Historians still argue whether Kodak's failure was due to internal complacency or external market forces. But the key takeaway is clear. If you're focused on the now and not the future, you risk being blindsided. Long-term thinking requires you to be aware of where the world is heading and to position yourself to take advantage of those shifts, even when they seem far off. So, how do you shift your mindset from the daily grind to long-term thinking? The first step is making sure your business plan isn't just about today, it's about the next 5, 10, and even 20 years. This doesn't mean you need to predict the future with absolute certainty. No one can. But it does mean you need to anticipate the changes that are coming. Whether it's changes in technology, consumer behavior, or the economy, you need to be thinking about how your business will evolve. Take a company like Tesla. When Elon Musk started Tesla, electric cars were a niche market. The technology wasn't as advanced, and many thought he was crazy for trying to compete with established automakers. But Musk had a long-term vision. He wasn't just trying to create a car, he was trying to shift the entire transportation industry towards sustainable energy. And despite all the early setbacks, Tesla is now a dominant force in the automotive industry. Not just because of its cars, but because of Musk's unwavering focus on the future of energy. Here's where long-term thinking really comes into play. It's about building a business that can weather the storm, not just ride the wave. That means investing in your infrastructure, your people, your values, and your relationships. You have to be willing to take risks today for rewards tomorrow. But those risks need to align with your values. You can't chase the next shiny object just because it seems like a quick win. Every decision you make should contribute to your vision of the future. A quirky tidbit here: do you know why the famous Ford Model T was so groundbreaking in its time? It wasn't just about the car, it was about the production process. Henry Ford didn't just think about making a better vehicle. He thought about how to make that vehicle affordable for the masses. His assembly line innovation allowed him to produce cars at a scale that was previously unimaginable. Ford wasn't just looking at the car industry of his day, he was looking at how to create an industry that would last for generations. And that kind of long-term thinking made him one of the most influential figures in history. But long-term thinking isn't just about big corporate shifts. It applies to the small decisions you make every day in your business. When you're thinking long-term, you're considering the impact of your choices on your customers, your team, and the world around you. This mindset helps you make decisions that are sustainable, ethical, and forward-thinking. For instance, if you're choosing between two suppliers, one that offers a lower price and one that aligns with your sustainability goals, you're not just thinking about today's budget, you're thinking about the reputation and impact you want to build for the future. One of the keys to long-term success is adaptability. Even with all the best planning, things will change sometimes unexpectedly. Think about how fast the pandemic changed the landscape for businesses. Some businesses that were focused on long-term goals were able to pivot quickly, adjusting their strategies to meet new demands. Others, stuck in short-term thinking, were left scrambling. Being able to adapt to new realities while sticking to your core values is a hallmark of long-term success. In this section, we've seen how long-term thinking isn't just about making decisions for tomorrow. It's about preparing for the unexpected, investing in your people and infrastructure, and staying true to your vision. But don't forget that long-term thinking doesn't mean you should ignore the present. You still need to take care of today's problems, meet your current obligations, and ensure that your business is running smoothly. It's a balance between today and tomorrow, finding ways to meet your current goals while also preparing for the future. So, take a step back and look at your business. Are you focused solely on short-term gains? Or are you making decisions that will set you up for long-term success? Start thinking beyond this quarter, this year, and even the next 5 years. The best businesses don't just survive, they thrive for generations. All right? Now that we've established the importance of long-term thinking, it's time to address a subject that almost every business owner will face at some point: failure. Nobody likes to talk about it, but it's an inevitable part of the journey. If you're serious about building a business that aligns with your values and stands the test of time, you have to learn to embrace failure not as an end, but as a powerful tool for growth and innovation. You see, failure isn't a sign of weakness or a failure of character. It's a signal that you've pushed boundaries, tried something new, and dared to step outside your comfort zone. And that's exactly what businesses need in order to grow. The real question isn't whether you will fail, it's how you respond when it happens. If you treat failure as a learning experience, you'll emerge from it stronger, wiser, and more capable of succeeding in the future. Let me ask you, how do you handle failure? Do you beat yourself up? Or do you analyze it to figure out what went wrong and how you can avoid it next time? The best business owners know that failure is simply a part of the process. You can't avoid it, but you can control how you react. When you encounter a setback, it's easy to throw in the towel or wallow in self-pity. But those who build resilient, values-driven businesses don't let failure define them. Instead, they let it refine them. Take the story of Steve Jobs and Apple. Jobs was famously fired from Apple, the company he co-founded. That was a huge failure on the surface. It looked like the end of his career, but Jobs didn't let that failure stop him. Instead, he spent the next few years at Next and Pixar, learning valuable lessons that he would bring back to Apple when he returned. He didn't see his firing as a failure in the traditional sense. Instead, he saw it as an opportunity for personal growth and reinvention. And when he came back to Apple, he transformed it into the company we know today. Historians still debate whether Jobs' firing was a blessing in disguise or a painful setback that delayed Apple's success. Regardless of the debate, one thing is clear. Jobs' ability to learn from failure and to use that learning to fuel his future successes was critical to Apple's growth. This is a prime example of how failure, if approached the right way, can propel you forward rather than holding you back. It's also worth mentioning that failing forward using your setbacks as stepping stones doesn't just apply to individual entrepreneurs. Entire companies can fail and come back stronger. Take Ford Motor Company. For instance, in the early 2000s, Ford was struggling, facing declining sales and an uncertain future. But instead of throwing in the towel, Ford's leadership focused on restructuring the company, revamping its products, and committing to long-term sustainability. The company faced challenges, but by focusing on improvement and resilience, Ford turned itself around and regained its footing in the global market. A quirky tidbit here. Did you know that the average number of failed businesses before a person gets it right is about 3? It's true, many successful entrepreneurs have gone through multiple failures before finding their stride. Failure is just part of the game. So, next time you hit a bump in the road, remember that it's a necessary step toward growth. Now, you might be wondering, how can you embrace failure without letting it derail you? It's all about mindset. Instead of focusing on the disappointment or the setback, focus on the lessons learned. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this? What can I do differently next time? The key is to shift your perspective from seeing failure as something to be feared to seeing it as a valuable feedback loop. When you embrace failure, you stop fearing it, and instead, you begin to anticipate the opportunities for growth it presents. Another important aspect of learning from failure is accountability. Owning your mistakes is an essential part of growing as a business leader. It's tempting to blame external circumstances, your competitors, or the economy when things go wrong. But true growth happens when you take responsibility for your part. When you own your mistakes and learn from them, you're not just becoming a better business owner, you're becoming a better leader. And here's the truth. Failure can actually deepen the loyalty of your customers. 2. People respect businesses that are willing to admit when they fall short and work tirelessly to make things right. Think about a brand that handled a failure with grace and accountability, let's say. Your favorite restaurant accidentally overcharged you on your bill, and they immediately offered a sincere apology along with a full refund. That kind of transparency, accountability, and genuine effort to right the wrongs can build far more loyalty than if everything had gone perfectly. Customers appreciate the honesty and the willingness to correct mistakes, and they'll reward you with their trust and business in the future. Historians still argue about the long-term effects of failures on businesses and whether they're truly necessary for growth. Some say the failures of major corporations were the price of innovation, while others believe those failures could have been avoided with better planning. But here's the key takeaway. Failure, whether big or small, is an inevitable part of the process. It's how you react, what you learn, and how you evolve that truly matters. Remember, failure doesn't define you. It refines you. If you approach it with the right mindset, you can turn any setback into an opportunity to grow and move closer to your ultimate goals. The business world doesn't reward perfection. It rewards perseverance, resilience, and the ability to get back up after you fall. And those who keep going, learning from each failure, are the ones who end up building businesses that last for generations. Let's talk about one of the most critical elements in building a business without compromising your values: customer relationships. At the heart of any successful company lies its customers, the people who choose to buy from you, trust you, and support your brand. Without them, your business doesn't exist. But it's not just about getting customers to make that first purchase. It's about creating lasting relationships that keep them coming back, time and time again. Customer relationships go far beyond transactions. They're built on trust, respect, and an understanding that business isn't just about the product, it's about the experience you provide and the way you make people feel. In today's world, where options are limitless and competitors are just a click away, building strong, loyal customer relationships is more important than ever. People want to buy from businesses that align with their values, that treat them with respect, and that make them feel like more than just a paycheck. Take Amazon as an example. Jeff Bezos famously said, If you're not customer obsessed, you won't make it. This idea of being customer obsessed is what's driven Amazon's rise to the top. But it's not just about offering a convenient shopping experience or fast shipping. Amazon goes out of its way to understand what customers need and continuously improves its platform to meet those needs. The result? A customer experience that's second to none, with an army of loyal buyers who trust Amazon and its brand. But here's the thing. Customer relationships aren't one-sided. While you're working to nurture and grow these connections, you also need to listen to your customers. This is where feedback becomes invaluable. Customers today want to feel heard. They want to know that their opinions matter, whether it's about the quality of your product, the experience they had with your team, or a suggestion for improvement. If you're not open to feedback, you're closing the door to growth. Businesses that genuinely care about their customers actively listen, adapt, and make improvements based on the insights they receive. Consider how companies like Starbucks, for example, have mastered this art. Starbucks doesn't just serve coffee, they provide an experience. And part of that experience is listening to customers. Over the years, they've rolled out countless product and service changes based on customer feedback, whether it's the introduction of new drink options, adjustments to store layouts, or improvements in their mobile app. They've cultivated an atmosphere where customers feel they're part of a conversation, not just a transaction. Let's dive into a quirky tidbit. Have you ever heard of the service recovery paradox? It's the idea that a customer who has had a problem, but whose issue is resolved quickly and effectively, might end up more loyal than a customer who never experienced a problem at all. In other words, fixing mistakes can actually strengthen customer relationships. When you handle issues with grace and integrity, customers see that you care about their experience. They're more likely to stick around when they see that their concerns are taken seriously. Historians still debate whether this paradox is universally applicable or if it's more relevant to certain industries. But the underlying point remains clear. How you handle mistakes matters just as much, if not more, than how you handle success. If a customer feels valued during a problem, they're likely to become even more loyal than they would have been if everything went smoothly from the start. This is why customer service isn't just a department, it's a culture that should permeate your entire business. Now, let's focus on one key aspect of customer relationships that's often overlooked: authenticity. In a world where consumers are increasingly skeptical about marketing tactics and corporate motives, authenticity is your biggest asset. Customers can tell when a business is being genuine, and they can also tell when it's being disingenuous. If your business is built on strong values, those values should shine through in every interaction with your customers. Whether it's the way you communicate, the quality of your product, or the way you solve problems, your authenticity will be evident, and customers will reward you for it with their loyalty and trust. Let's take a moment to consider a company that exemplifies authenticity: Patagonia. From the start, Patagonia has been committed to not just selling outdoor gear, but to advocating for environmental sustainability. It's not just a slogan for them, it's something they live and breathe in every aspect of their business. Their commitment to reducing their environmental footprint and creating products with sustainable materials has made them a beloved brand. Customers know that when they buy from Patagonia, they're supporting a company that truly cares about the planet. That kind of authenticity builds a deep, lasting bond between the business and the consumer. But here's the hard truth. Building strong customer relationships takes time. It's easy to get caught up in the hustle of trying to grow fast. But if you're not focused on nurturing your customer relationships, you're missing the point. Short-term sales spikes may feel good, but building a loyal customer base requires a long-term commitment to delivering value and staying true to your values. It's not about transactional interactions. It's about creating a relationship that goes beyond just the exchange of goods for money. Here's where the rubber meets the road. Are you willing to go the extra mile for your customers, even when it's not easy or convenient? Are you ready to listen to their feedback, make changes when necessary, and stand by your values even when it's tempting to cut corners for a quick sale? Building strong customer relationships means going beyond the surface level. It's about creating a genuine connection. And when you do that, your customers will reward you with their loyalty, their trust, and their support. So, take a look at your current customer relationships. Are they transactional, or are they built on trust, authenticity, and mutual respect? If you want your business to stand the test of time, you need to focus on nurturing these relationships, one interaction at a time. Because when you build a loyal customer base that believes in your mission and values, you're not just building a business, you're building a community that will help sustain you for years to come. We've spent a lot of time discussing foundational elements like trust, transparency, and building strong relationships with your customers. But let's shift gears a bit now and talk about something that's often viewed with skepticism in the world of business: profit and ethics. Too often, business owners are told they must choose between making money and maintaining strong values. The prevailing narrative is that businesses must prioritize profits to survive, and that making money requires cutting corners, taking shortcuts, or compromising on ethics. But what if I told you that earning a profit while staying true to your values isn't just possible? It's the key to building a lasting, successful business. You've probably heard the term capitalism with a conscience before, right? It's the idea that you can make money while also making a positive impact on society. And while some dismiss this as idealistic, there's actually growing evidence that businesses that embrace this philosophy are the ones thriving in today's market. In fact, consumers are increasingly aligning their purchasing power with their values. They want to buy from companies that are doing good in the world, not just companies that are driven by the bottom line. Take Tom's, for example. The company became famous for its one-for-one model, where for every pair of shoes purchased, Tom's donated a pair to someone in need. This wasn't just a clever marketing stunt, it was the core of their business model. And not only did this approach align with their values, but it also helped them generate massive success. Tom's built a loyal customer base because people felt they were contributing to a good cause with every purchase. And the model worked so well that it's become a staple of corporate social responsibility for businesses everywhere. Tom's didn't have to choose between doing good and doing well, they did both. But it's not just about philanthropy or charity. You don't have to start a buy one. Give one model to align your profits with your ethics. It's about doing business in a way that respects people, the planet, and the values that drive your company. A business that focuses on sustainability, fair labor practices, or ethical sourcing doesn't have to sacrifice its financial success. In fact, studies have shown that ethical businesses are more likely to retain customers and build strong brand loyalty. When you treat people well, they're more likely to return the favor. Here's a quirky tidbit for you. Do you know the concept of ethical consumerism is a relatively new phenomenon? While businesses have always made decisions based on profit, it wasn't until the 20th century that consumers began demanding more from the companies they supported. Ethical consumerism refers to the idea that people want to make purchasing decisions based on the ethical practices of the businesses they buy from. This includes factors like environmental sustainability, fair wages, and animal welfare. The rise of ethical consumerism has forced businesses to rethink their approach to profits and ethics, creating a new landscape where ethical values and profitability can coexist. Historians still debate whether ethical business practices are a recent trend or if they've always been around. But what's clear is that the current generation of consumers is demanding more transparency and accountability from companies. And if you're serious about building a business that lasts, you need to be part of this shift. So, how do you build a business that makes money while sticking to your values? The key is to find ways to integrate your values into every aspect of your business. Start by evaluating your supply chain. Are you sourcing materials from companies that treat their workers fairly? Are you mindful of your environmental impact? Do you ensure your products are made with integrity, from start to finish? By considering the ethics of your business operations, you're setting yourself up to create a business that stands for something meaningful. But it's not just about the way you source or the way you produce. It's also about how you treat your customers, employees, and community. The business world is no longer driven solely by the need to make profits. It's driven by the desire to make an impact. And as more businesses embrace this mindset, those that remain purely profit-driven risk being left behind. If you treat your employees with respect, provide fair wages, and create a positive work environment, you're not just doing the right thing, you're creating a culture of loyalty and trust, and that translates to long-term success. Think of the companies that have built thriving cultures around their values. Patagonia, Ben & Jerry's, and Warby Parker. They've done more than just make a profit. They've created brands that people love because they stand for something bigger than the bottom line. These companies understand that ethics aren't just a nice-to-have, they're a must-have. And by sticking to their principles, they've built businesses that not only make money, but make a positive difference in the world. Now, let's face it, making ethical decisions in business isn't always easy. It's not always the most profitable choice in the short term. It takes courage to say no to a lucrative deal that doesn't align with your values. But remember, the businesses that survive and thrive are the ones that stay true to who they are, even when it's tempting to cut corners. By keeping your values front and center, you'll find that profitability and purpose aren't mutually exclusive. In fact, they often go hand in hand. So, as you think about your own business, ask yourself, how can I build a company that makes money while staying true to my values? Where can I create more opportunities to align profits with ethics? Because when you make this commitment, you'll not only build a business that's sustainable in the long run, you'll build one that makes a real difference in the world. Now that we've explored how to make a profit while staying true to your values, let's dive into a topic that's often overlooked but incredibly important when building a business with integrity. Legal protections. Every business needs to be shielded from risks, whether that's from lawsuits, regulatory issues, or even the unexpected challenges that arise in the course of daily operations. But more than just protecting your business from harm, legal safeguards help preserve your values by ensuring you have the right structures in place to avoid compromising them in the face of adversity. First and foremost, when you're building a values-driven business, you must prioritize creating the right legal framework from the very beginning. This is not just about avoiding lawsuits. It's about setting up processes that align with your ethical standards and values. By doing so, you prevent circumstances where you might be forced to make decisions that compromise your integrity simply because you failed to account for potential risks up front. For example, take the legal issue of intellectual property. If your business involves creating products or services that are unique to your brand, protecting your intellectual property IP is crucial. Imagine building a successful, values-driven business only to have your innovative product or brand name stolen by a competitor. Not only would this threaten your financial viability, but it could also challenge the very principles you've worked so hard to uphold: originality, fairness, and respect for others' creative efforts. By securing patents, trademarks, or copyrights from the start, you safeguard your company's creations and maintain control over your business's future. The same goes for contractual agreements. Whether you're entering into partnerships, hiring employees, or collaborating with suppliers, contracts ensure that everyone is on the same page when it comes to expectations, responsibilities, and the values you're committing to. A well-crafted contract not only protects your interests, but also reinforces your commitment to ethical standards. For instance, a supplier contract that includes clauses about fair labor practices or sustainable sourcing can help ensure that your business doesn't inadvertently compromise its values by working with unethical partners. Historians still debate whether businesses that focus on ethical principles are more prone to legal battles, or whether their commitment to ethical operations actually protects them from such risks. While the debate continues, one thing is certain: businesses that have a clear legal structure in place, one that supports their values, are far less likely to face the kinds of challenges that can arise from a lack of foresight. Let's also talk about the importance of compliance with regulations. Every industry has its own set of rules, whether it's environmental standards, labor laws, or consumer protection regulations. By staying compliant, you're not just avoiding legal penalties, you're reinforcing your commitment to ethical business practices. For example, if your business involves manufacturing goods, ensuring that your factory complies with health and safety regulations not only protects your employees, but also demonstrates that you care about their well-being. This aligns directly with values like fairness, responsibility, and respect for others. A quirky little tidbit: did you know that many businesses that focus on strict legal compliance actually report higher employee satisfaction? It's true. Employees feel safer and more respected when they work in an environment where the company upholds ethical standards and adheres to the law. When workers know their company is committed to doing things the right way, they're more likely to stay loyal, contribute to the company's success, and advocate for the brand. Now, Here's the big question. How do you balance the pursuit of legal protection with your values? The answer lies in building a legal strategy that reflects who you are as a business. For example, you might consider hiring a legal team or consultant who shares your commitment to values-based decision-making. This will ensure that your legal decisions align with your broader business goals, so that when you face tough situations, you're not forced to make a choice between your ethics and your legal obligations. Another critical area for business owners to focus on is protecting your brand's reputation. In today's world of social media and instant communication, negative press or legal issues can spread quickly. But having a solid legal framework can help protect your brand's reputation from being tarnished by false claims or unfair legal challenges, whether it's defamation, intellectual property theft, or breaches of contract. Knowing your rights and having a legal team to back you up means you'll be in a stronger position to defend your values. And it's not just about legal protection, it's about proactive risk management. By assessing potential risks before they occur, you can take steps to prevent them. For example, if your business deals with customer data, ensuring compliance with data protection laws like GDPR is essential. You're not just complying with the law, you're protecting your customers' privacy, which aligns with your commitment to trust and integrity. In fact, building a strong legal foundation is a long-term investment, just like building trust with your customers or fostering a loyal team. Protecting your business from legal risks ensures that you're in a position to succeed in the long run. It gives you the peace of mind to focus on what really matters: growing your business, creating value, and staying true to your principles. So, what's the takeaway here? Legal protections aren't just about avoiding trouble. They're about reinforcing your values and building a business that stands strong in the face of adversity. By creating contracts that reflect your ethical standards, complying with relevant regulations, and taking a proactive approach to risk management, you're not just protecting your business legally, you're ensuring that your business operates in a way that aligns with who you are and what you believe. Now, take a moment to consider your own legal structure. Have you taken the necessary steps to protect your values? If not, it's time to think about building that foundation. Because, just like trust, transparency, and customer relationships, legal protection is a critical pillar in creating a business that lasts for the long term. We've covered a lot of ground building your business on values, protecting it legally, nurturing your team, and fostering deep relationships with customers. But let's talk about something that will inevitably come your way, especially as you grow. Change. Change can come in many forms: market shifts, new technology, economic downturns, or even internal company dynamics. Whatever the reason, businesses must be able to adapt without losing sight of their core values. But how do you stay true to your principles while navigating the unpredictable landscape of the business world? Change is inevitable. In fact, it's one of the few guarantees in business. But here's where the difference between businesses that endure and those that falter lies: adaptability. It's not about sticking rigidly to a set plan, no matter what it's about, staying grounded in your core values while being flexible enough to pivot when necessary. When you know what you stand for, you're better equipped to make decisions that align with your principles, even when circumstances demand a change. Take Apple, for example. Apple's success didn't come from sticking to the same product formula over and over. Instead, Apple adapted to the changing demands of the market. Think about the transition from the iPod to the iPhone. Apple could have stayed comfortable with their iPod model, which was selling well. But they saw that the future of technology was mobile computing, and they made the leap. The shift wasn't easy. It required massive changes in the company's infrastructure, design philosophy, and product development. But because Apple had a clear understanding of their core values, innovation, simplicity, and user-centric design, they were able to adapt and thrive. But adaptability doesn't just apply to big, strategic shifts. Sometimes, it's about embracing the small changes that make your business more efficient, more customer-friendly, or more environmentally responsible. Maybe it's switching to sustainable packaging, adopting a new CRM system, or exploring new ways of connecting with customers on social media. Even small adaptations, when aligned with your core values, can keep your business relevant and innovative in an ever-changing marketplace. Here's a quirky fact. Studies have shown that businesses that embrace change are more likely to survive long-term economic downturns. In fact, research indicates that businesses that are more flexible and open to change are better positioned to take advantage of new opportunities that arise during tough times. Think about it. While others are scrambling to keep their heads above water, you're already exploring new ways to create value, attract customers, and meet their evolving needs. But adaptability isn't about changing for the sake of change. It's about recognizing when a shift is needed, but ensuring that the change aligns with your business's core mission. Let's consider a company like Patagonia again. When they decided to make their business more environmentally sustainable, it wasn't just a marketing decision. It was a decision grounded in their values of environmental responsibility. They didn't just jump on the green bandwagon, they made sustainability a key part of their brand's DNA. That commitment helped them build a loyal customer base and maintain relevance as a company that stands for something important. So, how can you implement adaptability in your business while staying true to your values? First, you need to cultivate a mindset that's open to change but rooted in purpose. Encourage your team to think creatively and explore new ways of solving problems. But remind them that any changes must align with the company's mission and ethical standards. This will keep everyone grounded, even as you explore new directions. A key part of staying adaptable is continuously reviewing your business and its processes. Regularly assess your strategies, products, and services to ensure that they still align with your values and meet the needs of your customers. The world moves fast, and your business needs to keep up without losing sight of what makes it unique. This also means being open to feedback. Sometimes, the change you need to make will come from an unexpected place. Your customers, they are the ones who experience your product or service firsthand, and they may have insights into ways you can improve or adapt. By listening to your customers, you're not just improving your product, you're staying relevant in an ever-changing market. But let's not kid ourselves. Change can be difficult. It can be scary, especially if it feels like the road ahead is uncertain. The key is not to be paralyzed by fear, but to lean into the discomfort. Change often involves risk, and taking calculated risks is a hallmark of strong leadership. But when you approach change with clarity about your values, you make those risks less daunting. Here's a great example from history. Think about the transformation of Ford under Alan Mulally's leadership. When Mulally took over the company, Ford was struggling. The auto industry was changing rapidly, and Ford was stuck in old habits. But Mulally embraced the idea of transformation, pushing for new technologies, better management practices, and a shift in culture. And through that change, Ford regained its footing. The company didn't lose its identity. It became stronger because it evolved. Historians still argue about the exact causes of Ford's turnaround, but most agree that Mulally's ability to adapt to market conditions while preserving Ford's core values was a crucial factor in the company's resurgence. This is the model you should follow. Change doesn't mean abandoning your values. It means finding ways to adapt those values to meet the needs of today's world. It's a balancing act, remaining true to your principles while staying open to the innovations that drive progress. So, as you move forward with your business, ask yourself, how am I embracing change while staying true to my values? What's one area where I could be more adaptable, whether it's a product, a service, or my approach to customer interactions? The ability to change and grow while staying grounded in your core mission will keep your business not only surviving, but thriving in an ever-evolving landscape. As we reach the final stretch of this journey, let's take a moment to talk about crisis management because, let's face it, every business will face a storm at some point. Whether it's an economic downturn, a public relations nightmare, a major legal issue, or an unexpected disaster, how you handle crises will define your business for years to come. The key to navigating these turbulent times without compromising your values lies in your ability to lead with integrity, communicate transparently, and stay focused on what really matters. When a crisis strikes, the first thing you'll likely feel is panic. That's normal. Everyone does. But here's the reality. How you respond in those early moments will set the tone for how the rest of the crisis unfolds. Your response is what will shape your reputation, not just with your customers, but with your employees, your partners, and your community. This is where leadership is truly tested. The first step in managing a crisis is to remain calm and avoid reacting impulsively. In the heat of the moment, it can be tempting to jump into action and try to fix everything right away. But before you do anything, take a step back and assess the situation. What exactly has happened? What's at stake? What's the best course of action? Panic-driven decisions rarely lead to long-term success. And in a crisis, your values are your anchor. Think back to a real-world example, Johnson & Johnson during the Tylenol crisis of 1982, when bottles of Tylenol were found to have been tampered with, leading to several deaths. The company could have responded in a number of ways. They could have tried to downplay the situation, deflect blame, or cover it up. But instead, Johnson & Johnson took immediate, decisive action. They recalled 31 million bottles of Tylenol, publicly acknowledged the issue, and worked tirelessly to regain consumer trust. They didn't take the easy way out. They did what was right. Historians still regard the Tylenol crisis as a masterclass in crisis management. By focusing on the well-being of customers and putting safety first, Johnson & Johnson preserved not only their reputation, but their business as well. The company's response was grounded in their values of trust and integrity, and it paid off in the long run. While other companies might have compromised their values for the sake of avoiding financial loss, Johnson & Johnson chose to lead with transparency, ethics, and responsibility. This is the lesson. When crisis strikes, your values will be tested. The decisions you make in these moments will either reinforce your principles or cause them to crumble. The best leaders are those who lead with courage and empathy, even when they're under pressure. You might have to make tough decisions that could cost you money in the short term or challenge your business in ways you didn't expect. But the best way to protect your long-term success is by sticking to the principles that define you, even when it's difficult. Let's talk about something else. Communication. In a crisis, how you communicate with your employees, customers, and the public can make all the difference. The first rule of communication during a crisis is to be transparent. People understand that things happen. They don't expect perfection. What they do expect is honesty. If you try to hide the truth, deny responsibility, or provide half-hearted explanations, you're not only going to lose trust, you're going to lose respect. Your customers and team will remember how you communicated during the crisis, and that will shape their loyalty moving forward. Another key to crisis communication is to be proactive. Don't wait for the situation to escalate before you speak up. By addressing issues head-on and keeping everyone informed, you show that you're in control and committed to resolving the situation. Whether it's through public statements, emails, or press conferences, be sure to deliver your message clearly, concisely, and with empathy. And remember, transparency and honesty go hand in hand. Consider the example of Starbucks during their racial bias incident in 2018, after 2 black men were arrested in one of their stores for simply sitting without making a purchase. Starbucks quickly acknowledged the situation and took immediate action. They closed thousands of stores for anti-bias training, which sent a powerful message about their commitment to diversity and inclusion. It wasn't just about damage control, it was about taking responsibility, learning from the incident, and making meaningful changes. Again, their response wasn't about avoiding controversy. It was about addressing it head-on and using the crisis as an opportunity to live up to their values. Historians still discuss the effectiveness of Starbucks' response, with some arguing that their actions were motivated by a need to protect their brand, while others see it as a genuine effort to create positive change. Regardless of the underlying motivations, the response was grounded in transparency and a commitment to improving company practices. The key takeaway here is that crisis moments are often where businesses have the most to gain or lose in terms of reputation and trust. Finally, let's talk about resilience. A business that survives a crisis and comes out stronger on the other side does so because it has a resilient foundation. This isn't just about having a contingency plan in place, it's about the mental and emotional resilience to face adversity, make tough decisions, and keep moving forward. It's about understanding that setbacks are a part of the journey, and that what defines you is how you respond, not whether you avoid difficulty altogether. Take Disney. For instance, during the 2008 financial crisis, Disney faced major challenges, but instead of cutting costs at the expense of creativity or values, they doubled down on their commitment to storytelling and innovation. by sticking to their long-term vision and staying true to their brand identity. Disney not only weathered the storm, but came out stronger, continuing to grow and diversify into new markets like streaming with Disney+. The truth is, crises are not just a test of your business strategy. They're a test of your values. The decisions you make in these moments will determine how your brand is remembered, how loyal your customers remain, and how strong your reputation will be in the future. So, as you think about your business, ask yourself, how would I handle a crisis today? How can I prepare my company to stay true to its values in the face of adversity? Because crises are inevitable, but your response to them is a choice. Lead with integrity, communicate openly, and stay focused on the long-term picture. And you'll not only survive the storm, you'll emerge stronger and more respected than ever. We've made it to the final section, and now it's time to discuss something that many entrepreneurs overlook, but that can have an enormous impact on the long-term success of your business: giving back. In the midst of running a business, it's easy to get caught up in the daily grind chasing profits, hitting targets, managing people. But one of the most powerful ways to build a business without compromising your values is to integrate a sense of purpose into your work. It's about creating a business that doesn't just exist to make money, but that contributes to something bigger than itself. This isn't about philanthropy in the traditional sense. It's about recognizing that the value of your business extends beyond the bottom line. Why does giving back matter? It's simple. Purpose drives passion, and passion drives long-term success. Customers, employees, and communities are increasingly aligning themselves with businesses that have a sense of purpose and that give back to society. People don't just want to buy products. They want to be part of something meaningful. When your business stands for something bigger than profits, you create an emotional connection with those who engage with your brand. And that connection breeds loyalty, advocacy, and a deep sense of fulfillment. Let's look at Ben & Jerry's. For instance, from the very beginning, Ben & Jerry's founders, Ben Cohen and Jerry Greenfield, built their ice cream company on the values of social responsibility and environmental sustainability. They didn't just focus on selling ice cream, they used their business as a platform for change. They actively supported environmental causes, fair trade practices, and progressive social movements. Their commitment to giving back became an integral part of their brand, and it helped them build a loyal following. Customers didn't just love their ice cream, they admired the company's commitment to making the world a better place. It's not just about making charitable donations. Either giving back can take many forms, whether it's investing in your local community, using your platform to raise awareness about important causes, or supporting your employees' professional growth and well-being. Take Warby Parker, for example. Their Buy a Pair, Give a Pair model has been a huge part of their success. Every time someone purchases a pair of glasses, Warby Parker donates a pair to someone in need. This model isn't just about charity. It's about making an impact and creating a business that reflects the values of its customers. Customers know that their purchase is contributing to a cause they care about, and that connection drives deeper engagement with the brand. Now, a quirky little tidbit for you. Did you know that businesses that integrate giving back into their mission are more likely to see a rise in customer satisfaction? Research shows that customers are more likely to feel positive about brands that engage in social causes and that align with their personal values. This phenomenon is so powerful that it's often referred to as conscious capitalism, the idea that companies can operate with a focus on profits, people, and the planet. Companies that embrace this mindset are not only benefiting society, they're also building stronger, more resilient businesses. Historians still debate the long-term impact of conscious capitalism on business outcomes, but the evidence is clear. Companies that embrace purpose-driven work tend to outperform their peers. Not only do they attract more loyal customers, but they also tend to have higher employee satisfaction, lower turnover, and a greater ability to weather economic downturns. The key here is understanding that giving back doesn't have to be a large-scale initiative to be effective. It can start with small, meaningful actions, whether it's supporting a local charity, giving employees time off to volunteer, or even focusing on sustainability in your supply chain. Giving back can be as simple as making sure that your business operates ethically, treating people fairly, and providing products or services that make a positive impact. Let's circle back to a crucial point. Giving back isn't just a feel-good gesture, it's good business. Companies that embrace purpose-driven models are more likely to foster long-term relationships with their customers and employees. They attract individuals who share their values, creating a strong, unified culture, and they inspire others to take part in their mission, building a community around their brand. This sense of purpose creates a level of loyalty that is hard to replicate with traditional business models focused solely on profits. So, how can you integrate giving back into your own business? Start by asking yourself what you're passionate about. What causes do you care about? What impact do you want your business to have on the world? Once you identify your passions, think about how you can weave them into your business. Can you support a nonprofit that aligns with your mission? Can you create a business model that addresses a social or environmental issue? Or maybe you can start by offering your products or services to those who can't afford them. Giving back through generosity. The truth is, building a business that gives back isn't just a nice thing to do. It's essential for creating a brand that stands the test of time. People don't just want to buy products, they want to support companies that stand for something. When you integrate giving back into your business strategy, you create a culture of purpose that will resonate with customers, employees, and the world at large. As we wrap up this journey, I want you to think about your business in a new light. What if your business could be about more than just making money? What if it could be a force for good in the world? Start small, but think big. The more you infuse your work with purpose, the more meaningful and impactful your business will become, not just for you, but for everyone involved. The future of business isn't just about profits, it's about making a difference. And if you build your business with that in mind, you'll find that success is not just measured by the bottom line, but by the impact you have on the world. Now, take a deep breath and let that idea sink in. Build a business that stands for something and watch it thrive in ways you never imagined.